You ever had a moment where you felt like you just couldn't take it anymore? Maybe it's frustration, maybe it's self-doubt, maybe it's that voice in your head telling you you're not good enough. We've all been there. But let me tell you something. Those weak feelings, they don't control you. They don't define you. We all have moments in life where we feel overwhelmed by weakness, whether it's rooted in fear, doubt, or uncertainty. These moments are a natural part of being human. But here's the crucial point: the difference between those who rise and those who fall is how they handle their weaknesses. Weakness isn't inherently bad, but it becomes dangerous when you let it dictate your actions, decisions, and ultimately your destiny. To change your life, you first have to acknowledge those weak feelings. You can't run from them. You can't ignore them. You have to face them head on. Recognizing your weak feelings is the first step toward taking control of your life. Think about it. How often do we feel overwhelmed and act as if that feeling is permanent? As if it's the truth of who we are. You're tired, so you start to believe you'll never have enough energy to succeed. You're afraid, so you convince yourself that risk is too high and failure is inevitable. This is where weak feelings have power. When we don't acknowledge them, they begin to shape our identity, whispering lies that we start to believe about ourselves. But here's the thing: those feelings are just temporary states of mind. They're not fixed. And they definitely don't define who you are. You see, when you don't acknowledge your weaknesses, you give them space to grow in the dark, unchallenged. It's like a wound you refuse to look at, it festers. But when you shine a light on it, when you say, yes, I feel insecure, or yes, I'm struggling with doubt right now, you rob those feelings of their power. Weak feelings can only control you if you let them remain unchecked, if you accept them as facts rather than fleeting emotions. You need to confront those emotions with the mindset that you are in control of what happens next. Don't suppress them, but don't live in them either. It's important to understand that by acknowledging your weak feelings, you aren't accepting defeat. In fact, you're doing the opposite. You're preparing for the fight. You're saying to yourself, I know this feeling is here, but I won't allow it to take over. This process is key because it takes self-awareness to recognize when you're leaning into weakness and letting it guide your actions. Once you've acknowledged these feelings, it's time to decide what to do with them. And this is where most people get stuck. They acknowledge their weak feelings, but stay there, frozen in place. They identify the problem, but don't take the next step. What separates those who succeed is that they don't stop at recognition, they move into action. They know that acknowledging a weakness is only the beginning of a journey toward strength. You can't make progress in your life if you're unwilling to face your own weaknesses. It's uncomfortable to admit you're feeling inadequate, scared, or frustrated. It's tempting to hide those feelings because they make you feel vulnerable. But vulnerability is where growth happens. Think of it like this: in any physical training, you can't get stronger unless you first identify where you're weak. You wouldn't ignore the muscles that need work in the gym. The same goes for your emotional and mental muscles. The biggest mistake you can make is to believe that acknowledging weak feelings makes you weak. On the contrary, it's the strongest move you can make. When you face your weaknesses, you strip them of their ability to control you from behind the scenes. You become proactive rather than reactive. And that shift from reaction to action is what puts you in the driver's seat of your life. It's where you begin to understand that the weak feelings you once feared are actually opportunities for growth. People often think strength comes from never feeling weak, but that's a myth. True strength comes from feeling weak and deciding to rise above it. Each time you acknowledge your weakness and choose not to give in to it, you get stronger. And over time, those weak feelings lose their grip on you. You start to realize that they were never as powerful as they seemed. They were only as strong as the belief you had in them. When you recognize your weak feelings, you also give yourself the chance to learn from them. What's causing that fear? What's behind that self-doubt? When you dig deeper, you often find that those feelings are rooted in something you can change, whether it's your perspective, your habits, or the stories you've been telling yourself. Facing your weak feelings with honesty and self-reflection opens the door to understanding, growth, and ultimately transformation. Stop pretending like you have to be strong all the time. Recognize that feeling weak doesn't mean you are weak. It means you're human. But more importantly, it means you have an opportunity to change, to grow, to take control of your life. Acknowledging your weak feelings is the first step toward killing them. Not because they're evil, but because they no longer serve you. Once you do that, you'll find the strength that's been waiting for you all along. Weak feelings are a part of life. They come and go like passing clouds, often lingering longer than we'd like. But here's the truth, they are temporary. No matter how overwhelming they may seem in the moment, they don't last forever. The problem is that when we're caught up in the emotion, we start to believe it's permanent. We convince ourselves that the feeling of insecurity, doubt, or fear will stay with us indefinitely. But that's far from reality. These feelings are just passing phases that we have the power to rise above. One of the biggest mistakes people make is mistaking their emotions for permanent states of being. They wake up feeling discouraged one day, and instead of acknowledging that it's just a fleeting emotion, they assume this is who they are now. They say, I'm a failure, or I'll never get it right, but in doing so, they are confusing a moment of weakness with their entire identity. They are letting a temporary emotion turn into a long-term narrative about who they are and what they're capable of. Weak feelings are like weather. Some days the sky is clear and other days it's stormy. But even during a storm, you know the clouds will eventually part and the sun will shine again. Your emotions work the same way. You might feel overwhelmed, defeated, or anxious right now, but those feelings will pass. They don't have to define you unless you allow them to. Think about how many times you've been through something tough in your life. In those moments, you probably felt like it was the end, like there was no way out. But you're still here. You survived. You made it through those tough days, and you're stronger because of them. That's the nature of weak feelings. They seem insurmountable when you're in the middle of them, but with time, you realize they were only temporary obstacles that you overcame. The key is to remind yourself in those moments of weakness that this feeling is not forever. It's like a passing wave, and while it might knock you off balance for a bit, it's going to recede. You have to develop the mindset that weak feelings are just that, feelings. They're not facts, and they're definitely not permanent markers of who you are. When you start to understand that weak feelings are temporary, you can stop giving them so much power over your actions and decisions. Many people fall into the trap of making decisions based on their emotions in the heat of the moment. They feel afraid, so they avoid taking a risk. They feel discouraged, so they give up on a dream. But what if you held on just a little longer? What if, instead of making decisions based on a temporary emotion, you allowed yourself to pause, to breathe, and to remind yourself that this feeling won't last? Imagine how different your life would be if you didn't let temporary weak feelings drive permanent decisions. It's important to develop a mindset that helps you separate your emotions from your actions. Emotions are valid, but they are not always truthful reflections of reality. Weak feelings may tell you that you're not capable, that you should give up, that you're not worthy. But those are just feelings. They don't reflect the truth of your abilities or your potential. In fact, the moments when you feel weakest are often the moments when you're on the brink of growth. Those weak feelings are signals that you're being pushed out of your comfort zone, and that's exactly where growth happens. We need to learn how to sit with uncomfortable emotions without letting them control us. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean you can't succeed. Just because you feel doubt doesn't mean you won't accomplish what you've set out to do. Weak feelings are part of the process, but they don't get to decide the outcome unless you let them. And that's the choice you have to make. Do you give in to a temporary emotion, or do you push through knowing it will pass? When you start to see weak feelings as temporary, you take back your power. You stop letting fleeting emotions dictate your long-term future. You gain the ability to observe your feelings without being overwhelmed by them. You become aware that the moment you're in is not the end of the story, it's just one chapter, and you have the ability to write the next one. In those moments of weakness, when everything feels heavy and uncertain, you can remind yourself this is temporary. I felt this way before, and I made it through. I will make it through this time too. What's remarkable is that the more you practice this mindset, the more resilient you become. Over time, those weak feelings lose their power because you've proven to yourself again and again that they are just temporary visitors. They show up, they shake you a little, but they don't stay forever. You get better at weathering the storms because you know the sun will come out again. And when it does, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more equipped to handle the next wave of emotions that comes your way. The next time you're hit with a weak feeling, whether it's fear, doubt, frustration, remind yourself this is not forever. This is just for now. And now is not who you are. You are stronger than the moment you're in, and you have the power to keep moving forward. Weak feelings are temporary, but your strength, your determination, and your potential, they're permanent. Hold on to that truth and let it guide you through the tough moments. When you're faced with difficult emotions, whether it's fear, doubt, or uncertainty, your mindset is everything. The way you interpret and react to those emotions determines how much control they have over you. Weak feelings can either paralyze you or push you to evolve. The power lies in how you choose to perceive them. Reframing your mindset is about shifting from seeing yourself as a victim of your emotions or circumstances to understanding that you have the ability to control how you respond. It's about recognizing that you have a choice: either let those emotions dictate your life or decide that you're in charge of your journey. Weak feelings often arise when we view situations through a limited lens, one where we focus only on what's going wrong or what we can't control. Maybe you're struggling with self-doubt because a project isn't going the way you planned, or you're feeling frustrated because you're not seeing progress as quickly as you hoped. It's easy to get stuck in a cycle of negative thinking, where those weak feelings start to seem like facts. You tell yourself, I'm not good enough or I'll never succeed, but these thoughts are distortions of reality. They're not facts, they're stories you've allowed yourself to believe because you're viewing the situation from a place of disempowerment. Reframing your mindset requires you to step outside that narrow perspective and see the bigger picture. It's about asking yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this challenge to grow? Instead of seeing weak feelings as a sign that you're failing, start seeing them as opportunities for growth. Every time you face a difficult emotion, it's a chance to strengthen your mental and emotional resilience. The key is to shift from a mindset of limitation to one of possibility. Rather than focusing on what you can't control, focus on what you can. Let's say you're feeling overwhelmed by a situation. The first step in reframing your mindset is to acknowledge the feeling without judgment. It's okay to feel weak, uncertain, or even scared. That's part of being human. But after acknowledging it, you have to consciously decide not to stay in that emotional space. You can start by changing the narrative you're telling yourself. Instead of thinking, I can't handle this, start saying, this is tough, but I've been through tough situations before and I can handle this too. It may sound simple, but changing your internal dialogue is one of the most powerful tools you have. When you shift the way you talk to yourself, you begin to change the way you see challenges. A victim mindset tells you that life is happening to you, that you're powerless in the face of adversity. But an empowered mindset recognizes that you have the ability to shape your response, even if you can't control the situation itself. You may not be able to stop weak feelings from surfacing, but you can control how much power you give them. When you reframe your mindset, you stop seeing those feelings as barriers and start seeing them as stepping stones. Every time you face a challenge, you're gaining valuable experience. You're learning how to navigate difficulties, how to manage your emotions, and how to persevere when things aren't easy. These lessons are what build true strength. But if you stay stuck in a victim mindset, you miss out on those opportunities for growth. Instead of learning from the situation, you become consumed by it. Reframing your mindset is about shifting from why is this happening to me to what can I take from this that will make me better. Weak feelings are not permanent, but if you don't challenge them, they can become long-lasting patterns of thought. This is why it's so important to break the cycle early. When you feel those emotions creeping in, take a step back and ask yourself, Is this feeling based on fact? Or is it just my current perception? More often than not, you'll realize that your emotions are tied to temporary circumstances or distorted thinking. Reframing your mindset means reminding yourself that your current feelings are not a reflection of your future potential. One of the most effective ways to reframe your mindset is through gratitude and perspective. When you're feeling weak or discouraged, take a moment to think about all the times you've overcome challenges in the past. You've already proven to yourself that you're capable of handling difficulty. So why should this time be any different? Reminding yourself of your past victories helps shift your focus from what's going wrong to what's possible. Gratitude also plays a key role in reframing your mindset. When you focus on what you have instead of what you lack, your perspective changes. Suddenly, the challenges in front of you seem less daunting because you're approaching them from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Reframing your mindset isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens to you, you can control how you interpret it and how you move forward. It's about choosing to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles that hold you back. When you adopt this mindset, weak feelings lose their grip on you. They no longer dictate your actions because you've taken back the power. You've shifted from a reactive state to a proactive one, where you decide how the story ends. Reframing your mindset is a practice that requires consistency. It's about catching yourself in those moments of weakness and consciously deciding to shift your perspective. Over time, this practice builds mental resilience. You become someone who doesn't just endure challenges, but grows through them. You learn to trust yourself, to trust that you can handle whatever life throws your way, and that no matter how strong those weak feelings seem in the moment, you are always stronger. Building emotional resilience is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. Just like physical strength, emotional strength doesn't come naturally. It takes consistent effort, practice, and discipline. In the same way you train your body to become stronger through exercise, you have to train your mind and emotions to become resilient. This process is ongoing, and it requires you to face discomfort, challenge your limits, and develop habits that fortify your mental and emotional muscles. The idea of emotional resilience means that no matter what life throws at you, you can bounce back. You may get knocked down, but you don't stay down. You learn to process the emotions that come with setbacks, failures, and disappointments without letting them define you. It's about developing the ability to withstand adversity and to keep moving forward, even when things get tough. At the core of emotional resilience is the understanding that tough times are inevitable. No one gets through life without facing challenges, but the way you handle those challenges makes all the difference. Resilient people don't avoid difficulties or pretend they don't exist. They face their problems head on, but they don't let those problems break them. Instead, they use them as fuel to become stronger. When you think about emotional resilience, imagine it like training for a marathon. You wouldn't expect to run 26 miles on your first day of training. You start small, building your endurance over time. The same goes for emotional resilience. You don't become emotionally strong overnight. It's a process of gradually increasing your ability to handle stress, setbacks, and emotions in a healthy way. One of the first steps in building emotional resilience is learning to regulate your emotions. This doesn't mean suppressing how you feel or pretending that everything is okay when it's not. Instead, it's about acknowledging your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. When you experience feelings like fear, anger, or sadness, emotional resilience allows you to recognize those emotions, process them, and then respond in a way that serves you rather than letting them take control. Emotional regulation is like training your body to handle heavier weights over time. In the beginning, it's hard. You might feel overwhelmed by your emotions like they're too heavy to carry. But as you practice emotional regulation, you start to get stronger. You learn to take a step back, breathe, and choose how you want to respond, rather than reacting impulsively based on how you feel in the moment. This skill is crucial in building resilience because it allows you to keep moving forward, even when emotions are running high. Another key component of emotional resilience is developing a growth mindset. People who are emotionally resilient understand that challenges are opportunities to grow. They don't see failure as the end, they see it as part of the learning process. When they face difficulties, they ask themselves, what can I learn from this, rather than why is this happening to me? This shift in perspective is critical because it allows them to turn obstacles into stepping stones. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back after a setback, it's about bouncing forward. It's about taking what you've learned from your challenges and using it to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. Every time you overcome a difficult situation, you build more emotional muscle. You prove to yourself that you can handle tough times. And this belief strengthens your ability to face future challenges. One way to build emotional resilience is through self-compassion. Many people think resilience is about being tough and pushing through no matter what. But true resilience also involves being kind to yourself when things don't go as planned. It's about recognizing that you're human and you're going to make mistakes. Self-compassion means giving yourself permission to feel hurt, disappointed, or frustrated without judging yourself for it. When you treat yourself with compassion, you create an inner strength that helps you recover more quickly from setbacks. Part of building resilience is also about having the right tools and strategies in place to help you cope with stress. Just as an athlete relies on specific exercises and techniques to improve physical performance, emotionally resilient people have habits and practices that help them manage stress. This might include mindfulness, journaling, exercising, or talking things through with a trusted friend or therapist. These strategies help you process emotions, reduce stress, and stay grounded, even when life feels chaotic. Another important aspect of emotional resilience is maintaining perspective. When you're in the middle of a tough situation, it's easy to feel like the world is closing in on you. But resilient people are able to zoom out and see the bigger picture. They remind themselves that what they're going through is temporary and it won't last forever. They focus on the things they can control and they let go of what they can't. This ability to maintain perspective helps them stay calm under pressure and prevents them from getting stuck in a negative mindset. Building emotional resilience is about embracing discomfort. Resilient people understand that growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. They know that to get stronger, they have to push themselves beyond what feels easy or safe. This might mean facing difficult emotions head-on, taking risks, or challenging themselves in new ways. Each time they do, they build a little more resilience. The truth is, life is going to test you. You're going to face situations that make you feel weak, overwhelmed, or unsure of yourself. But emotional resilience is what allows you to rise above those feelings and keep moving forward. It's what helps you take the punches and keep going, not because you're immune to pain or hardship, but because you've trained yourself to endure and grow from it. Building emotional resilience is a lifelong process. It's not something you achieve and then forget about. Just like physical strength, it requires constant maintenance and practice. But the more you work at it, the stronger you become. And in time, you'll find that the challenges that once seemed insurmountable are now just stepping stones on your path to becoming the strongest, most resilient version of yourself. When weak feelings come up, whether it's doubt, fear, or insecurity, most of us tend to avoid them or suppress them. It's natural to want to escape from emotions that make us feel uncomfortable or vulnerable. But in doing so, we miss an important opportunity for growth. Embracing discomfort is essential for building resilience and becoming stronger. It's counterintuitive, but the very emotions we try to avoid are often the ones that can teach us the most and lead us to greater emotional and mental strength. The truth is, we grow most in the uncomfortable moments. When everything is smooth sailing, there's little challenge to push us beyond what we already know or what we're used to. It's in those moments of discomfort, when we're forced to confront our fears or face difficult situations, that we have the opportunity to stretch and expand. This is where true growth happens. Weak feelings are part of that process. They signal that you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's where real transformation begins. Embracing discomfort doesn't mean that you have to like it or enjoy it. It means that instead of running from it, you choose to face it head on. You acknowledge that the discomfort you're feeling is part of the process, part of the journey toward becoming stronger and more resilient. Weak feelings are uncomfortable because they challenge our sense of security and stability. But the more you lean into that discomfort, the more you realize that it's not as overwhelming as it seems. In fact, by facing it, you take away its power. One of the key reasons people avoid discomfort is fear of the unknown. We're afraid of what might happen if we allow ourselves to feel vulnerable, uncertain, or weak. We fear that if we confront those feelings, they'll overwhelm us or worse, define us. But what we often fail to realize is that avoiding discomfort doesn't make it go away. It lingers beneath the surface, festering, and eventually manifests in other ways, whether it's through stress, anxiety, or a sense of dissatisfaction. The key to overcoming weak feelings is to accept that discomfort is a natural part of growth. When you start to view discomfort as something temporary, something that will pass, it becomes less intimidating. You begin to understand that those moments of unease are not permanent, but they are necessary for getting to the other side of whatever challenge you're facing. The sooner you confront that discomfort, the quicker you can move through it. Think about how muscles grow. When you exercise, you push your muscles to the point of fatigue and discomfort. In those moments, it might feel painful, and you might want to stop. But after the workout, your muscles repair themselves, becoming stronger than they were before. The same principle applies to emotional growth. When you face discomfort, whether it's fear, doubt, or failure, you stretch yourself beyond what you thought you could handle. And each time you do, you become a little stronger, a little more resilient. One of the ways to start embracing discomfort is to shift your mindset about it. Instead of seeing it as something negative, start viewing it as a sign of progress. Discomfort means you're growing. It means you're stepping into new territory, learning new skills, and pushing past your previous limits. Rather than avoiding it, begin to welcome it as a necessary part of your development. This doesn't mean throwing yourself into situations recklessly or without preparation. Embracing discomfort is about taking calculated risks, knowing that there will be moments when you feel uneasy or unsure, but trusting that you'll come out stronger on the other side. It's about reminding yourself that every great accomplishment, every success has come from someone who was willing to be uncomfortable for a while. Another important aspect of embracing discomfort is self-compassion. When you're in the middle of a challenging situation, it's easy to be hard on yourself. You might feel like you should be handling things better or that you're not strong enough. But part of embracing discomfort is giving yourself permission to struggle. It's okay to feel vulnerable, scared, or uncertain. These feelings don't make you weak, they make you human. The key is to acknowledge them without letting them take over. Self-compassion helps you stay grounded during difficult times. When you're kind to yourself, you create a safe space to experience discomfort without being overwhelmed by it. You understand that it's okay to have moments where you don't have all the answers, where you feel lost or unsure. And in that space of acceptance, you find the strength to keep moving forward. One of the greatest lessons in embracing discomfort is that it builds trust in yourself. Each time you face a difficult emotion or situation and come out the other side, you prove to yourself that you are capable. You begin to trust your ability to handle whatever life throws at you, knowing that even in the toughest moments, you have the strength to persevere. This self-trust is invaluable because it gives you confidence in your resilience. You stop fearing the next challenge, not because you think it will be easy, but because you know you can handle it. Over time, as you practice embracing discomfort, you'll notice that what once felt overwhelming no longer has the same power over you. You become more comfortable in uncomfortable situations. You realize that weak feelings, while unpleasant, are temporary, and they don't have to dictate your actions. You learn to sit with them, process them, and then move forward with a clearer, stronger mindset. Embracing discomfort is about understanding that growth and change rarely happen when things are easy. It's the difficult moments that shape us, that force us to dig deep and find out what we're really made of. Weak feelings are a part of that process, but they don't have to hold you back. By facing them head on, by accepting the discomfort that comes with growth, you set yourself on a path to becoming stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more in control of your emotions in your life. Letting go of weak feelings is not just about suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. It's about actively taking steps to release the emotional and mental baggage that holds you back. Too often, we allow weak emotions like fear, doubt, guilt, or shame to take root in our minds, growing into obstacles that prevent us from reaching our full potential. The key to breaking free from these feelings lies in the conscious decision to let go, to stop giving them space in our thoughts and actions, and to reclaim control over our lives. Weak feelings often cling to us because we give them power. We allow them to dictate how we respond to situations, how we view ourselves, and how we interact with the world. For example, if you're constantly plagued by self-doubt, that feeling can seep into every aspect of your life, whether it's in your relationships, your career, or even your personal goals. You may hesitate to take risks, make decisions, or pursue opportunities because that doubt has become a dominant force. Letting go means recognizing that these emotions no longer serve you and choosing to release them from your mental space. But how do you actually let go of weak feelings? It starts with awareness. You have to recognize when weak feelings are influencing your thoughts and behavior. This requires a level of self-reflection and honesty. You need to be able to step back and identify when fear is driving your decisions, when guilt is holding you back, or when shame is preventing you from moving forward. Once you've acknowledged the presence of these emotions, you can begin the process of letting them go. Letting go is not a one-time act, it's a continuous practice. Weak feelings can creep up on you at any moment, triggered by a situation, a person, or even a memory. It's important to develop habits and mental practices that help you release these emotions whenever they arise. One way to do this is by shifting your focus from what you're feeling to what you can control. For instance, if you're feeling overwhelmed by fear, instead of fixating on the fear itself, focus on the actions you can take to move forward despite that fear. This could be as simple as taking a small step toward a goal, even when you're afraid. Over time, those small steps add up, and the fear begins to lose its grip. Another way to let go of weak feelings is through reframing your thoughts. Often the feelings we hold on to are tied to the stories we tell ourselves. Maybe you've convinced yourself that you're not good enough, that you've made too many mistakes, or that you're destined to fail. These narratives feed weak emotions and keep them alive. But when you consciously decide to change the story, you change the way you feel. Instead of telling yourself, I'm not capable, start saying, I've overcome challenges before and I can do it again. Reframing your thoughts helps you release the mental hold that weak feelings have on you, allowing you to move forward with a stronger mindset. Another powerful tool for letting go of weak feelings is forgiveness, both of yourself and of others. Weak feelings like guilt, resentment, or anger often stem from holding on to past mistakes or wrongs. You may find yourself replaying situations in your mind, regretting things you said or did, or harboring resentment towards someone who hurt you. But holding on to these feelings only weighs you down. Forgiveness is a way of freeing yourself from the emotional chains that keep you stuck. It doesn't mean that what happened was okay, but it means you are no longer allowing it to control your present and future. Self-compassion plays a huge role in letting go. Many of us hold on to weak feelings because we're too hard on ourselves. We expect perfection, and when we don't meet those expectations, we fall into a cycle of self-criticism, doubt, and shame. Letting go means giving yourself permission to be human. It means accepting that you will make mistakes, that you won't always have it all together, and that's okay. When you practice self-compassion, you allow yourself to release the harsh judgments that keep you trapped in a negative emotional state. Letting go also involves creating space for new emotions and experiences. When you hold on to weak feelings, you're filling your mental and emotional space with negativity. But when you let go, you make room for more positive emotions like joy, confidence, and peace. This shift in energy can have a profound impact on your life. You begin to approach situations with a sense of possibility rather than fear. And you open yourself up to new opportunities that you might have missed if you were still clinging to weak feelings. One of the most important aspects of letting go is patience. It's not always an easy or quick process. There will be times when those weak feelings resurface, and you'll have to remind yourself to let them go again. That's okay. Letting go is a journey, not a destination. Each time you choose to release a weak feeling, you're building emotional strength and resilience. You're teaching yourself that you don't have to be defined by your emotions, and you don't have to let them control your life. It's also helpful to remember that letting go doesn't mean you won't ever experience weak feelings again. Fear, doubt, insecurity, they're all part of the human experience. But letting go means you don't let those feelings take root. You acknowledge them, learn from them, and then release them. You move through life with the understanding that while weak feelings may arise, they don't have to stay. Letting go of weak feelings is about reclaiming your power. It's about deciding that you are in control of your emotions, not the other way around. It's about recognizing that weak feelings don't serve you and choosing to release them so that you can move forward with clarity, confidence, and strength. When you let go of the emotions that hold you back, you free yourself to live more fully, more authentically, and more powerfully. You stop carrying the weight of the past and start stepping into the future with a mindset that is focused on growth, possibility, and success. The essence of killing your weak feelings is not about denying your emotions, but about taking control of them, mastering them, and using them as tools for growth rather than letting them hinder you. By recognizing the power these weak feelings can hold over your life, you equip yourself to confront them head on, break free from their grip, and choose strength, resilience, and clarity. Emotional growth, mental toughness, and self-compassion are key to moving forward. The path to overcoming weak emotions is one of self-awareness, discipline, and a conscious decision to let go of what no longer serves you. It's about building emotional resilience, embracing discomfort, and ultimately taking ownership of your emotional state. In doing so, you position yourself for growth, success, and a future where you are not controlled by fear, doubt, or insecurity, but empowered by the strength and wisdom gained from overcoming them.